Hey guys, Tyler Mahoney here, TrumanLakeFishingIntel.com. It's the monthly edition of the Expert Roundtable Dinner hosted by Nini's Italian Steakhouse down here in Warsaw. Super excited to be working with David and Gina as they're helping us out hosting these dinners. Have amazing food, and by the way, they have a great perk for the Truman Lake Fishing Intel members. If you come down here and visit in person, you can get a free single appetizer when you show proof of membership to the website. So be sure to stop on by whenever you're in Warsaw next and enjoy some great food. They got specials going on all week, and we love getting together and enjoying everything that they have to offer here every month. So with that being said, this is a week later than we had initially planned, but this is the September edition, even though we're a little bit into October. And we have some great topics to discuss tonight. But first I wanted to discuss our lineup of guys. We've got some few similar faces that we've seen in some of the other videos and a couple of newcomers, but they've been contributing to the website this entire time. We're excited that they've been able to make it tonight. First I got Hunter Bowling sitting next to me, Richard Bowling's son. He's a fishing extraordinaire, does a lot of bass fishing, bass tournament fishing, and crappie fishing as well, and he helps do some guide trips with Richard. Jeff Falkenberry, endless season guide service, crappie, catfish, white bass, the duck hunting, which is carp, yep. the duck hunting, which is coming up here real soon. He's already been slaying limits of teal, and if you follow him on Facebook, he makes it look awful easy shooting him in his jeans. So yeah. Pretty cool, pretty good stuff. So, and then we got Richard Bowling of Richard Bowling's Guide Service. Has been guiding since the 90s here on Truman, and you're gonna catch limits of fish when you get out with Richard. And so be sure to check him out. Cody Van Atten, who has been with us since the beginning and has been guiding for years and years here on the lower lake in Warsaw, Missouri. Cody's Guide Service, and he also has a bait shop on this end of the lake called Cody's Bait and Tackle right off 7 Highway. You can't miss it as you're coming into town. Catfish.
Best stock shop in the area.
Yep. Catfish gear, crappie gear, a whole bunch of new bass fishing gear for all you bass fishing guys. So be sure to stop on in whenever you come through town. And then we got Steve Blake, Steve Blake's Guide Service, and you might be the longest tenured guide in the room.
Moved here in '83, started guiding in '84.
Yep, that's pretty awesome. So he knows the lake like the back of his hand. If you guys have been following the website, you saw that we did a pretty long video earlier this week, and it is packed with knowledge. We're going to hear some more stuff from him tonight. So with that said, we are excited to get going. First thing on the agenda is, well, it's October, what, 4th today? The month of September is kind of a transition month, so...
Thank God that's over.
That's kind of what I was getting at, was let's talk about September, what it was like, why it's like that, and what we can look forward to. Steve, let's start with you. Just because you're here on the lower end of the lake, you haven't had a chance to be on these videos. I want to hear your thoughts on September.
September to me has always been a slow month. Okay, there are some things you can do. Now, normally there's still fish on the flats, but you've got fish that are already starting. These fish kind of go in 3 different directions. You got fish on the flats, and then once the backs of the creeks turn over, a lot of these crappie and largemouth will move into the backs of the creeks and get shallow, and a lot of them will go to the bluffs. Okay, I caught them on the bluffs already yesterday, 18 to 22 feet deep, and some nice fish on jigs. And running a waxworm. Cody's got waxworms down there. We weren't using them. My boy had brought some down. I said, let me have one of them. I said, just for grins, you two fish a bear jig. I'm going to fish. I outfished them 3 to 1 in an hour. I mean, we finished our limit up. I outfished them 3 to 1.
Now, was this a minnow that also was tipped with just straight waxworm?
Swarm jig on a 1/4 ounce bob baits head and waxworm.
Okay.
It made a difference.
Okay. Very interesting.
But it's transitional month.
Yeah.
Everybody will tell you the same thing. Fish seem to be scattered all over the place. You got fish out in open water. You got fish on the flats. You got fish go to the bluffs. Fish moving back. And then once we get to that, what's your magic spot? 63, 65?
65.
It's like light switch comes on.
Yeah.
Be in the backs of the creeks and be shallow.
So Cody, to his point, September being up and down, you've been after the catfish here over the last month. You've kind of seen that.
Yeah,
ebb
it's a
and
roller
flow.
coaster. One day they're on, next day they're off.
change depth on you. They're just all over the place.
So it's really kind of hard to pin down
Yep.
a consistent pattern.
You're having to move a lot of looking and a lot of moving to stay on fish.
Mm-hmm.
Being 2.5 feet low hadn't helped either.
Yeah.
There was no water movement at all.
Yeah.
So no rain coming in and no water going out. It's hurting it worse than anything, I think.
And I haven't looked at the forecast at all recently. I don't know. Do we have
Nothing.
I don't think there's any rain until 2024.
Till after this year's over.
Right.
The rain clouds have COVID.
There's some
Yeah. Pretty
There's some
much.
very beautiful parts of the lake that are going to need mowed here.
Yeah. Yeah, notice that. However, some of these species, like the catfish, they've been up and down. Crappie, like we've talked about, seem to be on all the time. Maybe it's a little bit tougher, but what's the general consensus September crappie fish in 2020 on how it was, what you were doing, what we expect to see?
You're next. For me, it was, flats the whole time. I never left the flats, never went into creeks, and still fishing the flats. I came home from Louisiana last Sunday, come home Sunday night, Monday morning, I'm fishing, I really fished a steeper bank between two flats, or between two creeks, just to get out of the wind. I started on one end, and I told my partner, I said, man, I fished a week down here in Louisiana, and I'd not killed a fish for a week. I said, then the Truman fish are in trouble. So started on one creek, sand branch, and I worked all the way down to Pretty Bob, and by the time we got to the point, now it's not a deep bank, but it's a little steeper, and by the time we got down there, we had our 45 fish. So.
Wow.
But that was not on the flat today, and the rest of the time, all year long, was on the flats. A lot of times we was in 10 foot of water out to 20, and this morning I caught on the Grand Arm this morning on a trip, of course starting October, caught a lot of fish in 4 and 5 feet of water on the flats, but they moved up, way up by the bank. So September was good, but I got a live scope. Helps a lot. It was scattered out. So, in years past, you'd pull up and fish this tree, hope to get a bite, and then this tree and this tree. Now then I can look at that tree and say, nah, they're not there. Next. Kind of like what we did. Kept on the move, kept the live scope going back and forth, and cut down time looking and caught them.
Now, when you and I were talking earlier on the month and more in the late summer, there was a lot of fish out in the open. Has that kind of changed? Is there still fish out in the open now, or are they a little tighter to cover? What's the deal?
There's a lot of the fish had their noses right to the trunk. I mean, you almost had to hit them with I was using the hook and the sinker, or hook and the sinker in the middle. Yeah, and a lot of them, it really took a good drive to get their attention, because that water on the Grand is really dirty. And then you go from this tree to that tree over there, and there'd be a big fish sitting in the middle. I mean, even if you panned out in the channel, there'd be a big fish in the channel. And we caught probably 7 of our best fish today. We had some big ones I'll put on Facebook later that were out in 20 foot of water, not a tree around, no shad around, no nothing. Just one fish sitting by themselves.
Yeah.
How deep were they?
On the Grand Arm, I've not caught a fish more than 10 foot deep, 10 foot of line out for a month probably. And went to the Osage today on an afternoon trip, had one guy to catch his 15. And them fish over there, same deal, but instead of being real shallow, they was out in 14 foot of water or more, and every single fish was 14 foot deep. I've never seen a crappie shallower than that.
Yeah.
Same type of pattern, just a lot deeper.
Okay.
And it was all on structure, every one of them.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Roman fish over there. That water's a little bit cleaner than the Grand Arm, but the better bite right now is on the Grand.
So, structure being what? We talked about big dark, those black stumps. We talked about the little stick-ups. I mean, does it...
No. If you got a little bitty stick on the Grand Arm right now that comes up, you're in 10 foot of water, and it comes up about 4 feet. On top of that, there's going to be a fish sitting right on top of it. And I call them easy picking.
Yeah.
You can spider rig bite, you can cast it, you can catch that fish. That fish is eaten. But most of them was on the black stumps, wasn't in cedars, wasn't in hedges. Hedges didn't hold fish. A black stump with their nose right against it. And if you don't get it close to them, you're not going to catch it.
Yeah. Well, see, now that's what I was going to ask, because Jeff, you and I were talking about this in the last 10 or 14 days of the fish being really finicky and kind of spooky. If you don't get them on the first drop, they're not going to bite. Are they still doing that right now? Is that a result of the transition period, or is that just something funky they've been doing the last couple weeks just for...
I think it's because the water started cooling off. They're getting ready, and they're going to, here in about a week, the water's going to cool off more. It's going to be like a light switch. Now them same fish, if it's real sluggish to look, they're going to chase that thing. They're gonna
I think
hunt.
Cody hit the nail on the head though a while ago about these fish being scared in all different areas. You got no water movement
Not
to position.
put them in any
Yeah.
direction.
To position these fish in funnel points of current and behind the stump or in front of the stump or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why they're scared.
And also, a lot of these areas are getting so much pressure because the
Yeah.
water's so low.
Yeah.
Everybody's hitting the same stuff
Yeah.
because there's not near as many targets
Mhm.
now that the water's down so far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's in fishing, there's the only constant is there's lots of variables,
Mhm.
and September is that month of variables to where you may start the morning at 48, 49 degrees, and then by noon it's 93.
Mhm.
So you get in those situations where you're losing 3 and 4 and 5 degrees water temperature overnight, and then gaining 2 or 3 back in the daytime where you're still down 2, right?
Yep.
So you keep doing that over and over and over, and it just throws everything out of whack for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Till it gets to a certain point, and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything goes nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, game on.
So Hunter, same thing on the bass then, or what have you been finding?
Yep, so like last week, my brother fished a bass tournament. I got to watch him when we got back from Louisiana. What they're doing, they're going through the creeks and they're just pitching a jig out or throwing a spinnerbait,
Mhm.
catching. And they caught a lot of bass sitting there watching them even. They're in the upper grand and just fishing steeper banks.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught them very well.
Yeah. So now, were they real up shallow
Yeah.
on these steeper banks?
They were shallow.
Yeah. Like less than a foot, 2 feet,
Yeah,
3 feet.
they were shallow.
Yeah.
Way shallow. But they're in that deep, or that,
Yeah.
that water that's real murky,
Mm-hmm.
dirty water, so they're pretty good.
What kind of spinner baits, colors, sizes do you like to throw this time of year?
When I was watching them, they were throwing a Colorado blade, just
Okay.
a single blade. And me, I never really thrown one like that, but after watching them, where they're catching pretty good, and they're throwing a smaller profile.
my favorite.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Steve and I were talking about this.
Half ounce of number 6 gold blade chartreuse and white.
Yep.
That's what they're
Long
catching.
trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Just boom, 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 boom.
Now are they burning it?
No, they were rolling real slow. It
Okay.
seemed like, yep. And then we got a big bass tournament coming up. I think the 17th.
Is that the Joe Bass
Joe
Championship?
Bass? Yep. So we'll be doing a lot of fishing for that coming up.
Now you
next
guys,
week.
it's your partner's Kevin
Yep.
Rogers, right?
Yep.
Now you guys were leading. I swear you said the points.
We were till the last tournament.
Oh.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
He fished it with another guy because had a crappie tournament.
Mhm.
They didn't catch me too well, so we went back a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Hey, that's all right. You're gonna be in position. I'll be there doing some video of all that, so that'll be really freaking awesome. Okay, so we talked September, just a kind of a tough month. Let's talk a little more exciting things where we expect things to get really good here in October. I kind of want to start with something that's really popular that you and I talked about the other day that most anybody can do, which is the white bass and hybrids getting up shallow. Steve, what do you?
When they go shallow, find a bank with wind on it or without the wind on it. It doesn't seem to matter.
Mhm.
If you can find a flat, one of the flatter chunk rock points, about fish-sized chunk rock,
Mm-hmm.
and you can take a rooster tail, a Mepps, a poplar,
Mm-hmm.
a little fishy, a wet sock, you throw it out there,
Something moving.
and you're gonna get bit.
Anything.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's 1 or 2 fish here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are stretches of bank where you can go 100 yards and catch 50 fish
Mm-hmm.
or more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's till the water temperature gets below 50. From the time it's about 63 to 65 till it gets to about 48, it's just stupid easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have largemouth and hybrids and white bass and an occasional walleye all doing the same thing. My favorite's the poplar. I just love the top water fish. And when you're getting 20 to 30 strikes an hour on the top water,
Yeah.
each
It's
person
fun.
in the boat,
Yeah.
that's a blast.
Yeah.
And then, you know, your crappie, they're gonna, what's in the backs of the creeks is gonna be fairly easy. They're gonna be shallow. And the ones that have already moved to the bluffs, yesterday I had them 18 to 22 feet on bluffs with a jig,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
And as
the
the water
bite just
cools,
gets better.
some of those fish, like those fish he's talking about, will get out on shad balls and not even be in any structure.
Yeah.
Where you can go to a double jig rig and just,
Mhm.
just wear them slick, never hang up, never tie hooks.
I've seen them in January, 12 feet deep, off the islands, down here at Sterritt Creek, the
Mhm.
big islands over by State Park, where that river channel comes right into the bank,
Mm-hmm.
40 feet of water, solid shad at 12 feet, drop the jig down there 12 feet, just boom,
Mhm.
boom, boom, Boom.
One right after another.
Yeah. So these white bass and hybrids, when you guys are out doing trips, I know the lower lake is pretty popular, but there's white bass all over the lake. I mean, how far up the Grand can you go find them? All the way up there, up to G10?
Oh yeah, they're all the way up in the creeks.
Okay.
They'll be all the way up in the creeks, but they won't be like what he's talking. I mean,
that cleaner water is better.
there's areas there will be, but
Yeah.
the cleaner water.
Yeah. That's what makes the lower lake so much more
That's the other
conducive.
thing about them in the spring. Look, not very many of them spawn up the creek. Some do, and some of the hybrids will run up there. But the majority of them are gonna be out on humps when they spawn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got a hole up there right now that I was telling Cody before the show. It's full of these shad, and they're great big black gizzard shad, but they weigh a pound and a half a piece. You know, I mean, they're just giants. But they're in there with a whole bunch of small hybrids and white bass. So you kind of throw your net in there, and then you got to weed through it all.
Yeah.
But they're all in that hole.
Yeah. What's the best way? So hybrids mixed in, especially those smaller ones that might be similar in size to the white bass. So the folks who know how to identify them, what do they need to look for? Cody, I mean, you freaking fish from all the
You
time.
can either tell there's a second tongue patch on their tongue, and the lines are different. Your hybrid lines are going to be darker, and they'll kind of be more defined where they're broke up at.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot darker lines.
And from what I understand, they'll have several lines that go all the way through the tail, versus the white bass, I think, only has one line that goes all the way to the tail. I don't know if that's something
The
you guys
whites,
have ever noticed, but
the
that's...
hybrids are a lot more pearly white,
Yeah.
and the lines are much darker and more defined,
Mhm.
and they're longer and more sleek.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're
Every
both
time you
torpedo.
think you've caught a striper, you've caught a hybrid.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're narrower bodied, you know, and
Yeah.
you can tell.
Maybe, or a stripper. If you go by the Facebook commenting, it's spelled
Yeah.
stripper all the time, so it always
Yeah.
cracks me
Yeah.
up. It's hybrid striped bass, but anyway, so white bass and hybrids are looking really good. And Steve, you even said this year could be one of the best years you've ever seen.
We had so many little white bass this spring, they would run you nuts.
Mhm.
They were about that long. Okay, now they're about that long.
Yeah.
They grow a pound, pound and a quarter, pound and a half a year. So we're gonna have fun
Be fun.
fall.
Mhm.
It's gonna be fun.
I've been on them on a hump in about 15 foot of water for the last couple of days, and it's
Yeah.
lights out.
So you and I the other day talked about the setup that folks can go watch that and see how you like to run the rigging for the hybrids and the white bass. And you go, what do you guys like to do as far as rod and reel, combo, line, that kind of thing for them?
1/4 ounce white rooster tail.
Yeah. Yep.
Braided line.
Braided line.
Yeah.
And I sometimes will go as far as to change it out to a single hook.
Mm.
Even if I miss a few,
Right.
that's okay. But I get tired of fighting treble hooks
Yeah.
when it's every cast.
Especially when
Yeah.
they're in spinning tackle. Light tackle, it just makes
Yeah.
it so much more fun.
You
Yeah.
can switch that out to just a 202. You know,
Mhm.
take your on that 1/4 ounce white rooster tail. You can take that treble hook off and just put, you know, a 1/0 202
Mhm.
on it. You're not going to miss very many more fish than you would have, you know. But it's just a lot easier to grab them, unhook it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, crappie, what are things looking like on October? What do we expect? What pattern typically starts to take shape? About what water temperature? Which people be looking for? Crappie kings.
Personally, what I'm gonna do is find you a flat, you'll see a little indention on that flat, that's
Uh-huh.
some kind of ditch going in. Follow that ditch to the bank,
Mm-hmm.
you get in there in 3 foot of water, sometimes 2 foot, turn that boat around, start fishing your way out.
Mm-hmm.
65-degree water, they're gonna be in stake beds, there's a million stake beds in the lake, you can find every one of them, these new graphs.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be in every piece of structure you can find, and what's the neat about it is you might catch 3 or 4 out of one stake bed in 7 foot of water, and move on and come back in an hour and it's reloaded.
Mhm.
And fish are coming in there, the shad are going up there shallow. And I'm gonna stick with the flats, that's where I'm gonna catch most of my fish, and it'll be the whole month of October.
What I'm going to do is probably what he's doing. But I'm going to get in the creeks,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to get right on that ledge where that creek channel comes into these coves. You know,
Mhm.
we call them creeks or whatever, but these coves where it has a predominant creek channel that comes in,
Yeah.
and that channel might be, you know, 15 foot deep, and the edge of that channel is going to have standing timber on it, 8 or 9 feet of water, and I'm
Mhm.
going to run the edge of that channel on that.
Yep.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff showing, the lake's what, 2 foot low, and
2.5.
2.5. That's the lowest
It
in
was
5, 6 years.
704.18 this morning.
I can't remember when it's been this low.
The lowest it's ever been was 703.98, and that was the second year it was here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been a long time. There's stuff that I'm seeing that I always knew was there. I'm like, that's never showed before.
We had to put some flag buoys out in front of foredock because some of the concrete dock anchors were being hit by
Yeah,
really.
lower units.
I don't know how much more it can go down before that ramp at Bucksaw. I mean, it's shallow.
Yeah.
I don't care how well you know the lake, if you're gonna run the Tebow, the Upper Grand, the Upper Osage, the Palmy especially,
Yeah.
you better know what you're doing.
I'm telling people right now, I don't care how good you know the lake, even myself,
Mhm.
I'm seeing stuff now that I never saw
Didn't
before.
know was there.
In
So-
the middle of the channel.
Usually I always think to myself, if I hit something, that's my stupidity, and I'm going to tell you or Richard or Cody or Hunter or whoever, I'm going to be like, yeah, I hit that stupid stump up there by whatever, you know, we're all going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to hit that, you know. Now I'm thinking I'm going to hit something and I'm going to be like, well, I never knew it was there. Well, of course, the lake, you know,
Yeah.
hasn't been this low in forever.
You're talking about that. The last Crogmaster I fished in, we're running the main channel where I've ran for however long I fished. And we hit a stump right in the middle of the channel that I never even knew was there. We took our skag off the boat. So you gotta watch out and be careful.
Goodness gracious.
Where was that stump at?
Got him by a sparrowfoot. Yeah.
There's plenty of them out
Skag, it is,
there.
One word of two little orange.
Marked it with a
buoys.
skag.
Wasn't there?
Marked it with a skag.
So, Richard, we were talking about this before we started. You're talking about the flats. Let's define a flat, because that's a question that's been coming in a lot. And,
It's when you're tired of letting air in it.
you know, for someone who's not out on the lake every day, I understand the question. So,
I heard Richard tell somebody years ago when he was still working at the marina, and it's probably the best explanation I've ever heard. Some guy come in and is like, oh, you keep talking about main lake flats, what's a flat? And Richard said, everything across from a bluff. And that's true.
That's
You know,
pretty much
that
right,
bluff
yeah.
on one side, it's going to be a flat on the other. You're never going to see a bluff and a bluff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's going to be a bluff and a flat. So everything across from a bluff is a flat.
And it's the water depth stays the same, the bottom's at the same depth, and then you might see a little dip there
It's
Yeah, there's
for those ditches.
Yeah.
It'll be a slow taper
Yeah.
out to deeper water.
Could have timber, could have nothing.
A lot of it has nothing, but most of it will have timber.
Well, yeah.
Some kind of tree.
Mhm.
There's a lot on the lower lake where they got to harvest the timber before it flooded faster than they
Mhm.
had considered. And they cut it off that high. The fence rows, the crop field borders, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If you take the time to go look for it, and it's in 8 to 14 foot of water, it's low
Mhm.
in summertime.
There's a lot of that stuff that doesn't get fished. You know, you see a new structure that doesn't ever get pressure, you know, because the lake's not been down this low for a long time. So you're going to see a lot of stuff that, again, you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
Hasn't been touched in a long time.
I've seen a lot of stuff's got prop marks in the top.
Yeah.
So, Cody, on the catfish here coming up, what are you thinking? What's going to be the thing to look for? How have things been? It seems like it's getting a little better now.
It's getting better. They're pretty scattered with old bait. Bait's scattered all over the place.
Mhm.
There's a lot of fish pulled down to the main lake. The main lake's just full of catfish right now. You just mainly have to graph until you find fish that are on bottom. I've caught fish this week anywhere from 20 to 40 foot of water.
Mhm.
So one day like today, that there were some fish deep today. We caught some of our bigger fish all the way down to 40 foot,
Mhm.
just on flats drifting. So which those are a lot deeper flats.
Yeah.
They won't be up close to the bank. They'll be right out in the middle of the lake. But the wind's been the biggest issue out there. It's
Yeah.
hard to control your boat, and you're always better off to run close to your ledges. Your fish use them channels and ledges to travel.
Mhm.
You know, just like you mentioned the crappie, you find that ditch, your fish are going to follow the ditch, no matter what. And the catfish are the same way.
Mhm.
So
I relate them to them like deer. I mean, when we fish, you know, we anchor fishing or whatever we're doing, when we spot up and, you know, you always cast the rod out and then that rod gets laid down and you think, all right, that rod was, you know, right in line with that stump. You can put 5 rods out there, but that rod will get bit every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, those catfish are coming out of that trail
Mhm.
Yep.
each time.
Yeah, I've heard that story multiple times, and it's like, what the hell is up with that? The one rod that gets hit all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But Cody, I think I've heard you talk about it. You'll move positions, and it's still
Oh, yeah.
that rod.
Sometimes it's still that rod.
So what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Just the luck of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Spider rigging the same way.
Yeah.
I've seen 8 poles out, one rod throughout the day be the hot pole. Catch most of the fish.
So bizarre.
Yep. Same net, same bait, the way it works.
So on the old catfish, because I heard you guys talking about, I mean, obviously followed your stuff for years, and you guys will start getting fish really shallow in the wintertime. When
Cody
does-
and I have been
when does
talking
that-
daily, and even now,
Yeah.
we're fishing 2 separate patterns.
Uh-huh.
Totally.
You know, he's
separate.
catching his fish deep.
Uh-huh.
I'm catching my fish shallow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do 90% of the time. I live on shad. Catching and fishing 40 feet,
Mhm.
I could
You don't
count
have
on one
that much
hand.
line on your rod.
Yeah.
I'd have to put line on a reel
Yeah.
before I catch fish. And just, I can count on one hand how many catfish I've caught out of that depth of water, you know, just because it's a different end. He's down on a cleaner water, I'm up in
Yeah.
a dirtier water
Mhm.
fishing toward, you know, rivers and creeks and
Mhm.
everything. The fish I'm catching right now are so shallow, I will not fill my boat tank up.
Mm.
I'm running half a tank of fuel. I will not fill my boat tank up because to get in where I need to get in, I can't get in with a full tank of
Mhm.
gas. I'm keeping my boat as light as I can. I'm not filling my live wells. I have everything taken out of my boat. I even went as far, I have 2 Millennium seats on bases that I use for
Uh-huh.
spider rigging. I took my back seats out because they're heavier than these Millennium seats. I've lightened everything I know to lighten.
Goodness gracious.
Because I'm going in 1.4 feet of water to get in to catch fish in 9 feet of water
Mhm.
that's in an old creek channel.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I can't get in there if I
Yeah.
go in real heavy.
And it's a lot like the other predator fish. You find some bait back in there, and they're gonna be there. Is that the deal, or is there
I honestly
something
think they
that?
don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to get out somehow,
Mm.
obviously, but yeah, they're just kind of in there. You can't side scan in 1.4 feet of water, obviously, but when you get in that ditch and you side scan, it's just constant. And you think you get bit all the time, but you don't. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You have to wait them out a little bit. But and you know, he's catching 20, 30 fish a day where I'm catching 15.
Mm-hmm.
And but we had, you know, we caught a 51-20 and some 25s and a 31, and we had one over 20 today, catching a big fish once in a while.
Mhm.
You know? And but it's not near as fast.
Mm-hmm. A lot of time in between bites.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're waiting them out.
Yeah.
You're waiting them out, and you're getting fish that run. And that shallow bite is so much fun when you just see a rod wiggle a little bit and the line goes slack. And I tell my people, pick it up, start reeling as fast as you can. They're reeling, it's already under the boat, gone. You know, I mean, I don't know how fast a catfish can swim, but it's fast.
Yeah.
Faster
Tyreek
than
Hill
you can
fast.
crank.
yeah. It's faster than
Yeah.
you can crank a rod. I guarantee you.
So, Hunter, on the old bass here in the next several weeks, what are we looking for?
I think spinnerbait is going to play a big part here too.
Yeah.
I think spinnerbait and jig could be a big deal. Just fishing the creeks, like Steve said, getting the backs in the shallow
Square
water.
bills.
Square bills too.
Square
Buzzbait.
bait, chatterbaits.
Yeah,
Mhm.
catch them good.
Everybody this weekend coming in the shop was after chatterbait.
Yeah, see, 'cause I hadn't heard, ever since we started this website, I hadn't heard people talking about chatterbaits a whole lot. So, is that,
That's one thing I can never catch them on.
yeah,
I've tried being a part of it, tried, cannot catch them on. I don't know why, but we can't.
I've watched a million videos on how to do it. First of all, I miss more fish than I've ever landed on a chatterbait. Don't know why, but I just haven't heard people throwing it on Truman specifically a whole lot.
I mean, I always kind of thought that, the low 60s and upper 50s, that kind of jerkbait stuff comes into play
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean, that jerkbait bite on
Yeah.
the lower end. can get
45
a
to
bit
48, 49 is,
jerkbait go time.
especially, people don't understand what you can do on this lake in December and January.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not deep, I'm not talking no deep diving jerkbait.
Right, right.
Jerry McCutcheon and I a couple years ago went out, fished 4 hours, put 44 fish in the boat, over 20 of them keepers.
Wow.
We pulled on one point, one chunk rock, steep bluff channel point, and took 8 3-pound cookie cutters on 8 casts.
Well, guys-
You hit the right day, and it can be awesome.
Clown Road, Clown Road,
Mhm.
Clown Road.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, let me see what the next topic was. I mean, you guys can chat about whatever you'd like, but I had a little list here. Oh, I remember what I wanted to get back to. the Louisiana versus Truman topic. So Richard was down at the national championship for the Crappie Masters and finished 10th place. And I wanted you to kind of just chat about your experience down there, what you were doing compared to up here, maybe the differences. Just something that folks can learn just the differences.
Richard, was that on the Arbonne?
No, we was on the bayou from the Arbonne, but we was on the Ouachita River.
Yep.
So it's a river system. It's got little lakes, and it's not what I call a lake. It's more like a bowl of water.
Mm-hmm.
So to run in the river, and you can run the river wide open, a lot of laydowns, and going there, I never looked at a lake map. I never looked at nothing. I just think river system, current.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a little current, you got a break in it, you can catch crappie behind the breaks. But they've had them hurricanes and too much current. So that pushed. I had one spot on the main river that I could catch one big fish, but it was out of the way, too far to go. So it kind of made the river out of factor. So then you got the D'Arbonne Bayou, which is a long creek, kind of like the Sea Highway, the little narrow creek. And it's timber, brush piles along the edges. And I had a big day up there. I had one spot, or Gary and I did, is on there's a lot of current coming out of the D'Arbonne. And anywhere that current, the corners were, they were stacked there, getting out of that current. So I pulled in there and laydowns and stuff, and I'm telling you, they was stacked in there. And I sat there and played, and I caught a 202, a 180, and a 167. I never moved the boat. And I said, Gary, we can sit right here, spend the day, and win this tournament right here. And I thought we could. But then as the time went on, it rained every single day. So they opened that dam more current, so it kind of pushed them fish out of there. So we went on the river, and I spent the first day, Gary and I spent the first day on the river ducking in these lakes. And I can't remember the name of all of them, but one of them was Hamilton, and one was...
There's a bunch of them. Wise Lake, there's everything.
Hunter, Hunter and Larry, which they won 6th, and ourselves had found at different times. I found them the first day, one group of fish. Hunter, I don't know what day they found it, but
Thursday.
We don't compare stories because I don't want to say something and him be in the spot, and then I get aggravated with him. So we never compared nothing. But just getting these lakes, and what I learned there was, I don't know why it is, but you can get any of them lake and go up to 7 foot of water, turn your side scan on, pull out, and when you get to 9 foot to 12 foot, there's a line of timber. And if this was lake, it'd be all around it. So the night before the tournament, some of the fish that we had found on Sunday, the day I started fishing, man, I pulled on that stuff, and I said, Gary, look at there. There was 7.5 pound fish on one tree. I hadn't seen them like that there yet. But the current picked up, pulled more fish out of that river. I said, look at that. And I went over and I caught one as a pound 80, pound 82. And I said, I won't catch that. I went, and it was timber, and it's just a row of it. Just goes around the lake. And I went up through there, and I guaranteed that we seen 100 fish, pound and a half and better.
Wow.
I said, this can be one here. We're not going to the D'Arbonne. So couldn't wait till the next day. I mean, every lake we went in, it was the same way. You go in 9 to 12 foot of water, there's timber. And that's what we keyed on, because I like fishing, structure. And there was a lot of fish in the open water. But that Eric Cagle, the one, when I pulled in the first day, of course it's dark, and there's a boat sitting up from us 100 yards, which gets daylight, Charlie Bunny. And I look at Eric's out there in the middle. He's not on the stuff, he's in the middle. And he's the one that won the national championship. Congrats. And me and Gary got there at 6 o'clock. I ran 40 miles of river with a GPS. Dark, you couldn't see nothing. GPS, 40 miles of river. Pulled in, not a lot of boats in there, just the bunnies when it got daylight. And like I said, Eric, got 10 to 7, I turned my graph on, and I looked at that tree and not 0 fish. I said, Gary, you're not going to like that. I wouldn't turn the graph on early because I didn't want to find a big fish and be sitting on it with a live scope.
Yeah.
And I scanned that, and I had my pole with minnow on it. I said, there's not a fish in that tree. And I went right up through there, not a fish on none of them. He said, well, it's 7 o'clock. And just about that time, there's one stick up, and there's a big fish laying right on top. And I said, well, 7 o'clock, that's the only one I see. And I dropped, and I caught it, and it's a 167. I went up 200 yards of trees, never seen another fish. I went across and got on the backside, and that's where we caught our 12.5 pounds or whatever we had the first day. Eric just stayed out in the middle. Now he's out there. What happened is, a lot of these people, there's 100 and some boats, 105 boats, they found these fish and they jacked them and they shoved them out there. and he's just out there. He's casting to him with a short pole. I'm picking him up. I never watched him, but that's where he was at. And there's no structure, wide open water fish, light jig, fired to him. And he left the first day. No, I knew he had over 13 pounds. I told one of the guys there, he said he had 13 pounds, something he left, and he came back. But we stayed there. We had 12, 20 or something. And sitting up high. Second day, we go all the way back, but I put it in a different boat ramp. Didn't have to run as far. Went to that set of trees, turned the graph on, nothing. So I went back over to where we caught 12 pounds, and I weeded through, and I caught a little over 10 pounds. So we got to do something. And crappie is always want to tell you something. You know, I learned a little bit while I was down there. And pulled into another creek where Hunter's starting spot was, and it's loaded with big fish. The tournament could have been one out there. There's that many big fish. And I would drop on them, and I'd pull away slow, and they'd come up. I mean, you could almost dip them. They're so close. I mean, your sinker's out of the water, and the fish is still right there, and then you just turn and go. And then I'd throw a jig at him and pull it back slow. And I'd done everything, kind of minnow, I'd done everything. Everything I know to make a fish bite. And usually I can make a crappie bite. I can lay it on him and make it bite. Not down there. So we had a little over 10 pounds, a lot of boats in there. Robert Carlisle, one of the best ever, he was in there as well. I went to the other side, and I seen a big fish out there. I said, Gary, give me that jig pole. So he handed me my jig pole, and I swung it out there. He was at 20 feet. And I can put it right on their nose at 20 feet. And he chased it, but he didn't eat it, but I pulled it slow. So the next one, I said, they're trying to tell us something. I said, I'm going to try something new. And the next one I seen, I flipped out to it. I've never done this with crappie. As soon as it looked up at it, as fast as I could pull it back, I mean, it chased up plumb troll motor and ate it. And it was a 202. I said, got it figured out. Get the net ready. And we went through there, and we called every fish except the 202 and went up to 12-some pounds. But figured that out in the last hour.
Wow.
If we'd been doing it all day, you know.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have never won it because he had such a big weight. But, you know, might have moved up a couple. But what they wanted, every fish I'd pitch at, once they cock up, and you can watch them, they just do like that. Once they do that, it's game on.
You
Just
got their
bash.
attention.
And I'm not casting, I'm swinging to them with a 12-foot pole. So I'm getting out there at 20 foot, right in front of their nose. They cock up and just start pulling fast as you can, and then they chase it. And we put over 12 pounds of fish in the boat in less than an hour.
Wow.
But getting back to Truman versus that there, you know, it's sloughs, bayous and stuff, and a lot of fish, and they got good fish, but they don't have the numbers of fish.
Nowhere
And it's
near.
more of a, you know, you're going to either spider rig down there or you're going to dip or cast, whichever. Come to Truman Lake, there's way more numbers. You can, you know, I don't care. You can go tomorrow and pull crankbaits to catch a limit crappie, and you can spider rig it. This lake's got way more crappie and don't have as many 2-pound fish as they got down there. I bet we caught 100 fish over 2 pounds in 7 days, pre-fish, and in the tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that Truman versus that fish is a lot different because you got more timber and more flats. There's no flats, so you go in a little bowl of water. It's not really a lake. So Truman, by far the best lake. I've been to, I've been everywhere for these nationals. I've fished, I think, 18 of them. It usually travels, you know, there's probably 10 different rivers or lakes we've been on, and this by far is the best fishery I've ever been to. I can go.
Those fish down there get 2.5 to 3 month longer growing
They
season
do,
than
they
we
do.
do here.
They just don't have the, if they had the numbers like what we got, even Grenada Lake. You know, we was leading nationals down there and had 16 something the first day and just handpicking what you wanted. But if you go back day after day, they just don't have the numbers that we got here.
It gets hammered.
We got the numbers, we got good size, which our weight's down. If you don't have over 12 pounds, you're not going to win. And we got so many techniques to catch them. That's what makes it the best,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great story. It's awesome to kind of hear the comparison of the two. So, and congrats to you for top 10 finish.
Thank you.
Top 10 finish. That's freaking
It
awesome.
was fun, and I thought maybe Gary would retire this year, and next year it's on Darbone, which is letting water into that river. And he's already talking about going back, or going down there, which is a little bit further south than what we were. So
Yeah.
game on again.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's freaking awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. Shifting gears back to another topic that I had written down, the lake turning over. We hadn't really gotten to that in depth. We kind of talked about that there's some evidence that it's starting to happen, potentially, that maybe it's looked like it's potentially happened, except that it's the lake's been really low, maybe more of that grass is showing and that wind is catching it, maybe making it look like it's been going on.
Algae too.
Yeah.
A lot of algae in the lake right now.
That's what I've seen. The
These
algae. I've not
fish-
seen-
Yeah.
That's all I'm seeing is algae. These fish that we're catching right now, it's so funny because you reel the fish in, you can see right where you drug him through the
Yeah.
water.
Line, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, when do we expect the turnover to really start taking shape? What water temperature is that? And then how is that going to impact the fish when it comes down to crappie, cats, bass, white bass?
Oh, it's going to be on once it gets all finished up.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just kind of in limbo for where I'm at right now. I think we still need another 5 to 6 degree drop, or if we can get 2
Same
inches.
way on the main lake. We need another 5 degrees
Mhm.
drop on the main lake.
We need 2 inches of rain to be good.
Yeah.
I was in a little Tebow a week ago, a little over a week ago, and it was obvious up there. I mean, there was scum floating everywhere, little dead leaves up off the bottom. It stunk. The water was rancid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Big Palmy was bubbling pretty hard
But I was
Wednesday,
way
but
up
that
there.
was the first
Mhm.
I've seen of anything bubbling up. So, and the fish wouldn't bite at all.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, the fish really shut down, it seems like. How do you find fish?
Stick and
Move
move.
around and
Yeah.
get away from
Yeah.
it.
Stick and move, man.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
The whole lake don't turn at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always go switch arms. I mean, everybody here has fished every arm of that lake.
Yep.
To stay on fish.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
Now-
And that's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, how often do we leave the Grand?
Not
Really?
very
Try
often.
not to.
Yeah.
And,
I love it.
and now
Yeah.
it's been 50-50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I've fished mainly.
As far as
Tebow
like on
Grand,
the
and I'll
lower
say-
Grand though, as far as catfish, it's been dead all year.
Yeah, I didn't even
You
know.
know.
At all.
I mainly stayed on the Osage all year.
Mhm.
When I've been on Truman or
Yeah.
jumped down on Lake of the Ozarks and catch fish.
Yeah.
And it's slow down there right now too. You can catch some big fish, but as far as numbers, it's slow.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Are there particular arms of the lake that will traditionally turn over sooner than the others?
the extreme upper end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extreme. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there again, variables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, water level, temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Water
you know,
clarity.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it's,
know how dingy that water
Just all
is affects the
depends.
temperature a lot.
Even the
too.
amount of sunshine you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and our rains, even the rains we have been getting, are so spotty. You know, somebody
Yeah.
over here gets 6 tenths, and then these get 2 tenths. You know,
Mhm.
or they get 3 inches 8 miles that way,
Mhm.
and we get half. You know what I mean?
Steve, I don't know if it was you or Bob Bates who was telling me, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some theory about the lower lake not getting anywhere near the same rain as other arms of it, and I think it was Bob, and he swore it was something to do with the actual dam creating some kind of weird
But I
deal.
do see a lot of times where Clinton and the upper end of the Sac and Windsor Crossing will get hammered.
Mhm.
Or
And
Palmy.
it'll, or Palmy,
will
and
get
it'll just
hammered.
split and go around the main body of the
Yeah.
water.
Mm.
I don't know why, but I have seen it numerous times.
Mhm.
But you got to figure you're still even on this lower end, the bigger body of water. You're not going to get that fast running
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you
No.
know it's a bigger body of water, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the
It-
narrower it is, the faster it runs,
Mhm.
The
right?
big end's current comes from when they run water through the dam.
Mhm.
Up the river arms come from when it rains.
Mhm.
You know, that's
Yeah.
the most of it's current. So
Yeah. Yeah.
right now the dam not running water is where it's affecting this lower end.
And that's
the
what
most.
kills us almost every September. We
Yeah.
very seldom
Yeah.
have high water in fall anymore.
Mhm.
Constant variables, boys.
Yep.
So in this low water, what and this plays into stuff I already have on the website. So I've got a bunch of videos up there that a lot of you guys watching have probably seen with the drone videos of the boat ramps. And one of my projects I'm working on over the next year is actually doing aerial footage. It's probably going to be more than a year long, but aerial footage of each arm of the lake. I don't have all the boat ramps done either, or all the access points, so that's a work in progress. With this low water the way it is, what boat ramps or access points should people be avoiding going to?
Deep water.
Deep water's pretty rough.
Deep water's awful.
Yeah.
That's Fox Run.
The gravel road in Otter.
Yeah, Fox Run.
Fox Run's
Fox
got
Run.
me get. I doubt I could get my big boat in there without going off the
Yeah.
other ramp.
You can't use deep water ramp. Like you can't. It dropped. It's
That ramp-
The ramp just ends and you're.
The
Yeah,
ramp
drop.
ends
Yeah.
and your frame sitting on the.
That
Yeah.
Gravel road ramp above Bucksaw and the two heavily timbered coves in the back of there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no water.
I'd say stick with the 5 main boat ramps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Marinas and Shawnee Bend,
Mm-hmm.
Marina,
Stick with
Shawnee
them.
Bend.
or you might have trouble.
Yeah. Well, that's really good to know. I mean, especially for our members that they're not here all the time. They maybe get to fish Truman a few times a year, and they
And
don't have the experience with
Better run the channel.
Yeah.
You better run the channel
Yeah.
because
And
there's
unless
spots.
you really know the channel, I don't.
Now, does
Especially
that-
up Tebow. Tebow's got a lot
Yeah.
of trees in the channel or that lean over the channel.
Palmy's
Well-
the same way up by Buzzard Bluff.
Well, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask, because I swear,
Yeah,
doesn't the
Palmy's the same
Palmy
way.
have some sketchy points even in the channel?
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
Yeah.
Buzzard Bluff area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only
Yeah.
place I've ever lost a prop.
You get a lot of the
Or
big,
spun a prop.
some of the old cottonwoods and stuff that actually lean over the channel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I had one of them get me up Tebow in the channel about 4 years ago when the water was real low.
Mm-hmm.
Out in front of Sand Branch before that island, that water out there before the island, you know, when you come
Yeah, yeah.
coming up, that water, it's only about this deep.
Cost me a lower unit one year.
If you get just off the channel, you're
In no
you're,
water.
you're done.
There's a lot of places like that at Orange Crossing too right now.
I was running up the Osage on my trip this afternoon, just not paying attention, going to get my guys. There was one of the ramps up there on the gravel. And wasn't paying attention there at the point there at Mary Bend, and my motor.
Oh,
said,
yeah.
"Ee!" I looked down, I'm in a
Yeah.
foot of water. Good, at least it trimmed up as fast as I could going across, and then it broke back down.
I was catfishing that water a couple weeks ago and I
Uh-huh.
seen a lot of boats bogged down and going.
I went right through it. Holy moly!
What about that hump off the Bucksaw Point campground?
Oh yeah, it's
Right
it's
before you
ankle
make the
deep.
turn? That can't be.
It's ankle deep.
Have they got a buoy on it or anything?
No.
No. Mary Bend,
And then you go-
Mary Bend's probably.
We go under
a
U
foot and a half of
Highway
water
Bridge
right
and
now.
come around like
Yeah,
going
but
to Sand Branch.
this one,
Yeah.
both of them are like out
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah,
I hit mud on that one 2 weeks ago, and I've actually seen that one out of the water.
yeah. And I think in another, by the end of this week, this upcoming week, I bet you see that out of the water.
Well, they're gonna aerate
And
the river.
people-
They're not gonna stop aerating.
No,
the
they
river.
can't, they can't, they'll
Especially
kill a
after-
lot of fish.
After
so.
what happened here a few months ago.
Yep.
They did cut it back a little bit down there, they cut the floodgates back just a hair, but not a lot.
And that one out on that point that Steve's talking about, I've seen many
Oh,
skiers
yeah.
and
Many, many,
tubers
many.
go across it.
Yep.
Mm.
Well, and here's the other thing, you know, when you're, a lot of people will shortcut these islands, running the rivers, don't do it. Now, I don't even run between the Sterritt Creek Islands anymore.
Yeah.
Even
No,
though it
worth
says there's 4 foot of water there,
Yeah,
you know, maybe there's a stump there like this.
Mm.
yeah.
And the 2 islands across from Sterritt before you get to State Park cut through, do not run through there.
Yeah.
There's stumps in there twice the size of
I
these
quit
tables
cutting through the,
that are that far under the water.
Mm-hmm.
there at KK, I quit cutting through it too, I'm going around it now, so.
Yep.
It's getting
2.5
shallow.
feet, big difference.
It's a lot of difference.
It's gonna wind up being 3 or 3.5, I think, before it's over with. the
Yeah.
road
God, I
forecast.
hope not. I hope not. Gee.
Then you'll have to come down and fish further down the lake.
Yeah. It's gonna,
Yeah.
it's getting that way. I'm about done where
I
I'm
can see
at.
it now, we'll all be in a circle at the weir.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna have to head this way, I guess. I'm gonna run out of water pretty soon. My fish are gonna have to learn to walk.
Uh-huh. Well, guys, we're coming up on an hour, and was there any other topics? I have one more topic that I was going to ask each of you. Anything else you guys wanted to add to anything that we've already talked about?
Not without stepping on toes.
Okay, so I thought it might be cool, just for fun, to highlight one of the more memorable trips that you guys each have had in the last month, why it was special, what made it cool, what was unique about it that you don't necessarily have happen maybe every, could be the group you were with, could be you caught something that you weren't expecting. Just thought it might be kind of fun little story time. So, whoever wants to start, take your time because we can edit out.
Man, I don't know. Like I can't remember breakfast most days,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of things that stand out in my mind. And I mean, I'll tell you, just today I had a gentleman whose nephew stopped a couple of guys from picking on a gal, and they caught him. They were at
Thank you.
a event. They
Mhm.
caught him outside and beat him and bashed his head in with the jack out of their car and killed a man. And I mean, this was today. And this guy, he said today was his 15th day of this year off of work. I mean, he works all the time, and all this had happened and everything. And he got set, and we caught fish, but the visit, you could just tell this guy just had a lot. And man, that's what it is, you know, in our line of work, getting to know these people and making the friends and stuff. The 5120 that we had the other day, that grown man just ready to cry.
Yeah.
You know, he always wanted to catch a big one. Always wanted to catch a big one. And then to come and catch something like, I mean, 50-pound fish on Truman aren't common.
No.
They don't
A
happen.
couple fish a year like that on Truman,
And-
and that's it.
And to do that was just, it meant a lot to him. And I mean, that's just something recent. There's been a lot of stuff over there.
Yeah.
You know, something I want to say, a lot of people know the man. Bob Bates, in the last 3 months, for any of you out there that know him, if you see Bob, say hi, shake his hand, anything you can do. He's lost his wife, his son, his granddaughter, and his great-granddaughter in a 3-month period. And how the man keeps going, I have no idea.
Yep.
But he's
Still
always got a
keeps on
smile on his
plugging away,
face,
yep.
and he's still just as full of crap as a Christmas turkey.
Every time I call him, he's got some one-liner
I call him
lined
Dad.
up every time. Whenever he
I call him
answers.
Dad, he calls me son.
Yeah.
You know, we're that close, and, I mean, the man's been through hell.
Yeah.
Very good.
If you
fellow.
see him, say hi, cheer him
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. We love having him
I
as
know
a
that doesn't have to do
contributor.
with fishing.
No, I mean, he's one of our contributors, and it's something that it's hard to imagine. Something you can't even empathize with.
No.
So.
Yep.
I can't imagine losing one of my kids, much less one of my grandkids.
Right. Right. So. Cody, what about you?
Probably the best trip I've had. I did get to work with Randy Thornton on a Hope Outdoors trip this month. And it was a really good trip. I took a little boy, 7-year-old boy out that had a brain tumor when he was really little. Been through surgeries. He's come out good. He'd come out wanting to catch fish, and right out of the boat ramp, I let him drive the boat.
Yeah.
And that was his highlight of the day. They got to catch a bunch of fish, and we ended up going down on Lake of the Ozarks for that.
Yep.
Just because there was a couple big tournaments on Truman, and I knew with the kids I didn't want a lot of boat traffic, so
Right.
we went down there and they had fun. They caught several slot fish. One pretty good fish. It was right at 34 inches. It was probably 20 pounds. But seeing them kids catch fish, that's what makes it for me. David Townsend, you know, he's got in on several of the Hope Outdoors trips, and it just makes you feel so good inside taking them little kids out. So
It does. Randy's got a good thing going
He
too,
does.
and that, and I know, like Cody said, he's been helping Dave and myself, and I just did a couple of them. I know these guys have done a bunch, but man, it's been a hoot. It's been a lot of fun.
They're fun to take out. A lot of them are kids that ain't real fortunate too. They've been through so many health issues that they haven't got to do a whole lot. And you get them out on something like that, and they just have a blast.
Means a lot. Yep.
It means a lot. So
Yeah, there's nothing like fishing with kids.
no,
Yeah.
there isn't.
If they're good kids.
Most of them are.
No, but most of the kids are,
Pretty good.
I mean, they want to catch fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard, what about you?
Man, there's been a bunch of good ones. Probably I've done one here in the last month that a fella has been on chemo and radiation for a long time, and chose not to do it no more. Come down and done a trip with me and a group of guys, and he's pretty much calling it quits.
Them are hard trips too.
Oh,
I've had a few of them, and I actually had one last year that the guy was on hospice, and the hospice nurse had to come out.
Yep.
And that was, hospice will actually do like a last wish on a lot of their people if they have enough time. And his last wish was to go back out fishing with me. And that's a hard trip to take, but it means a ton to their families.
Yeah.
Did the nurse go with you?
Yep, the nurse had to go. She
I had
couldn't
one
leave
do
his
the same
side,
thing.
and it.
Meant a lot. I mean, for this guy to get out, he caught a lot of fish and done really good. You know, to look at him, he looked good. He's not an old fella, but he's not doing it no more because it makes him sick. And he wanted one more good fishing trip, and he got it. And I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just something happens.
Yeah. Well, it's really special.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's something that not only is impactful for them, but like you just said, the families just.
The family will always remember it.
Yeah.
I tell you, there's not a guy in this room, when there's a benefit going on,
Yep.
when somebody's family has a death and mom and the
That's it.
kids got no way to support themselves, Cody's been there, Richard's been there,
Yep.
Jeff, Hunter, myself, Bob, everybody donates a guide trip.
Yep.
Or two.
Do anything you can to help them out.
Do anything you can to help them out. That's what's so wonderful about this community, is it's like a big batch of friends. One person has a problem, it's everybody's problem.
Yep. Yep, it's awesome. It's amazing just for those of you guys, I think I've told all of you, just the story of me coming into Clinton. We used to have property here in Warsaw, and that was 8 or 9 years ago now, 2012, where we grew up on that place. My entire little childhood, I was spoiled to death with that place. And coming up, we bought Mike Everhart's place before he passed on, and Jeff, I think I met you for the first time at Jake's.
Yep.
Probably at one of their crawdad boils.
Yep.
I hadn't yet started really, I was still in college at the time, and getting into the outdoor riding.
You
and
started Mahoney Outdoors.
Yeah, and it was just for fun. It was never really to like make money. It was just a fun vlog type of deal. And because a lot of the people I went to school with at Rockhurst High School and Rockhurst University, they had no freaking
Not
clue
outdoors
what it
people,
meant
right?
to be doing what I was doing. So it was just something to kind of share those stories. And you know, it was just pretty quick. Just I loved Warsaw just because of how wild it was. You could roam for hours and never see a fence line. What I love about Clinton and what our property is the relationships that I never had down there. Meeting all of you guys and just understanding how small of a world it really is. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that camaraderie we never had down there.
That,
So-
that area down there kind of keeps to themselves. So
Yeah.
I grew up down there, you know. I still don't know what of the neighbors I had back then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just a little bit more quiet.
Yeah.
People don't mingle together as
Mhm.
groups.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people, even though I deal with the public every day, I keep my circle small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, just stuff just like this with the Truman Lake Fishing Intel. This is how you get out to learn, because people don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
come to Truman Lake and they hear about this guide or that guide or whatever, and you know, that's something that's growing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, without something like this, you don't know who the guides are. Or
Right.
whatever. You know, I'm talking about Bob. Bob called me. I was on a trip with my wife for our anniversary, you know, and Bob called, and I seen he called, and I can tell you exactly where I was standing. I was standing at our room. We just got to our room, and I was like, I'll call him later, you know, because I'm on a trip with my wife. And Bob calls again, and I'm like, something's wrong, you know. I mean, if somebody hangs up and calls you right back.
Yeah.
something-
Yeah.
And, you know, one of our local water patrol had a death in the family, and Bob said, I want to send some stuff over, and he said,
That was
you
when
know,
he was down in Arkansas.
Yeah.
He called me.
Yeah.
the core group of guides, you know, he said, you know, you and Richard and Steve and
Yeah.
Cody and us, he said, I wanted to send stuff
Yeah.
to the deal
Yeah.
with all of our names on it, you know, and he said, I just wanted to make sure it was okay. And that's the kind of guy Bob is, and that's the kind of circle,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
kind of people.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
and that being said, you're talking about a core group of guys. And maybe I'm gonna step on some toes, I don't know. But every year we have, I never heard of this guy. A guide, I got openings, give me a call,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I wonder to myself, because I know we all do, do they have commercial insurance? Do they have commercial liability or
Right.
things of that nature? And maybe they are good fishermen. I'm not knocking it. But that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, big time.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I'm very appreciative and feel very blessed to be working with you guys and have you guys as part of doing these videos every month and being contributors every week. It's already starting to show. So for those who are watching, we launched on August 14th was day one of the website going live. We're here October 4th. It hasn't even been 2 months. We've had over 60,000 page views
Really?
on the website.
Ooh.
So just to show you how impactful the information is that you guys are helping put
It's
out.
1,000 a day.
Yeah. Oh, it's more than that. It's more than that. And you know, the videos that Steve and I shot, Cody, Jeff, and Richard. I mean, it is, and we're going out with Hunter here this week. I mean, they're averaging. I mean, it's thousands of views, and
You got it. I mean, this is it. This is the place where
Yeah.
it's happening.
yeah.
So there's like, I'm gonna use OGs.
Mhm.
I mean, these guys are the OGs.
Yeah.
You know, you got who Joey and Jason would be the only other two that were,
Yeah.
you know, in that
Mm-hmm.
in that old, you know, in your guys' when it all
Yeah.
first started to blow up. I mean, Fred's gone.
Yeah.
You know, Fred and Marvin
Marvin.
and those guys. You know, I mean, these guys are what's
Mhm.
left of the original original gangsters.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
So this is the place to come for that.
Right.
That
This
kind of,
gangster's getting tired.
Right.
that kind of information.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right. And it's the best that you can get because exactly what you said. You guys have been doing it the longest. You're out there every day.
You know, like we discussed the other day, we're sitting here, and nothing we're talking about is rocket science.
No.
No.
You know,
No.
and I have people call me, well, you know, it's going to be cloudy tomorrow, and
Yeah.
and it's supposed to rain, and what do we change, and what do we got? I said, whoa, back up. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
The same things that caught fish 20, 30 years ago
Yeah.
still catch them today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you got all these little nuances and everything, but there's nothing, you know, you can watch all the videos you want, read all the books you want. There's nothing that beats you getting out there with time on the water.
Mhm.
That's what makes us what we are.
Mhm.
The time we spent on the water.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it shows in what people are seeing and the feedback that we're getting. So it's only going up from here too. We're only a month and a half in, and over 60,000 page views on the website. The Facebook page is up for a lot of you folks are already following it. It's over 1,000 people that are following it, and we're gonna make sure to continue sharing everything that these guys are doing. It is it's gonna be nuts. I was talking about the Truman Lake Fishing Hall of Fame with Steve the other day. All of these guys would be in it if there was one, but it really is something that I feel strongly that if there was one of those, we've got all of those guys
There's
that would
several
be in it.
candidates that aren't with us anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Steve Custer,
Yeah.
Al Fisher,
Yeah.
Fred,
Mhm.
Rich.
Marvin.
Rich.
Yep.
He's
yeah,
not
Rich
doing
Salzberger, Marvin Deckard.
Yep.
Yeah, Rich
He
is
come and
not
see
doing
me
it.
the other day.
Rich did? I talk
Yeah.
to his boy all the time,
Mhm.
Cheeseburger, he told me. He said,
Mhm.
Yeah, he told me, he said, I'm about done. He said, I ain't gonna be around much longer. So,
Well, guys, we ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
We're right at about
Thanks,
an hour.
Dave and Gina, for having us.
Yeah.
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 Thank you all.
food was great.
Thank you all for food. Food
Yeah.
was great.
Food was great.
So
Spaghetti sauce was awesome.
yeah, one more quick note: Nini's Italian Steakhouse, right down here in Warsaw. David and Gina Townsend are sponsoring our monthly guide dinners. Be sure to stop in and see them and support them right here in Warsaw. You tell them you're a member and they'll hook you up with an appetizer. So it's pretty awesome. And David has Just Another Crappie Bait company as well. You'll see that ad on the website putting out these really kick-ass crappie baits that you can just get on the Facebook page, get a hold of them, and order those anytime. So we appreciate you guys so much for having us. Appreciate these guys a ton for being contributors, spending time here today, and we've just got so much more stuff to come. Be sure to share with your friends and family what we're doing, what we're talking about here. Let them know just how impactful this information is. We want to keep this community growing, and it's already going nuts. So can't wait to see what the next year has in store. Thanks a bunch, guys, for watching. I want to thank Steve Blake, Cody Van Atten, Richard Bowling, Jeff Falkenberry, and Hunter Bowling again for being here. Be sure to check them out online, social media, and we'll plan on catching you guys on the next one. Thanks a bunch.